Lab number 15. In this lab, we will finish with a default configuration for our further application development, and we will start with the creation of Android emulator instance that we can use as an Android device for our further development and testing. So in order to start doing that, let's open the terminal and type Android AVD, which will open the Android Virtual Device Manager. So now we can create our first emulator. Let's select Nexus 5 as a device. Let's name the emulator, or Nexus 4, sorry. Let's name emulator Nexus 4. And the target level will be Android 5.1.1. So we don't need hardware keyboard and we don't need any skin right now. And the memory allocation, let's point to 512 megabytes. So it is created, and next step is to automate the running of the emulator. So the emulator itself should run like this. So you should use the command emulator, then with -ivd you specify the name of this instance, I mean the virtual device that we just created. In our case it's Nexus 4. And next step is we need also to specify a few additional parameters like enable KVM and QEMU. And basically if we click enter, our emulator will be started. So as you can see, emulator started, so it advises us to send statistics to Google. We won't do that on this moment, so let's wait until Android will boot for the first time. So as you can see, it is running. And our next step will be to create a shortcut for this command in order to run emulator from the shortcut. So we will do it almost the same way as we did it previously with the studio. So first of all, let's close the emulator and let's open our main menu editor. And inside the programming section we will add the new icon. Let's call it Android emulator. This item will have icon, let's have it from Ubuntu folder, devices 24, and there is something standard called phone svg. And the command that we will launch actually will be the launcher of our emulator. I mean, we will type it right here, but just before we need to specify that it will be open in terminal with ls terminal command, then -e and actually the command itself. So in our case it is emulator, because it will be opened in a separate session. It won't find out our path that we specified in the previous lab, so we need to provide the full path to our emulator, and this will be the home IBM dev SDK Android, and then tools, and then there is emulator, so this path. And afterwards the same commands, so -avd and Nexus 4 is name of our instance that we created, and also -QEMU and -enable KVM, so just as we already did. And basically that's all. We can click OK and close this main menu editor, and afterwards we should see the new item in our start menu called Android emulator, and after start it should actually initialize the emulator. So this is what it's doing. Let's give it some time. Yeah, so emulator is starting. Actually, in this terminal we will see any issues if they will happen with our emulator, so we'll keep it running. And basically, if we will close this window, emulator will be also closed. In order to avoid this issue, you can start it with no hub as a separate process, but as I said, in this terminal we will see any errors, so this will be helpful for us. And also the additional things that we will do, we will click the right button on our panel and select add remove panel items, and the same way as we add the MobileFirst Platform Studio icon here, we will add Android emulator, and we will also make it just before the text editor that we will use later, so just like this. Okay, so now icon is there and we can launch our emulator anytime we want, so as expected. So now we will open the terminal and install a few additional required things. So we will start with sudo apt-get install and together with curl. So those two are required. So Ant will help us to create the scripts and basically work with Android command line interface from command line, and curl will help us to install Node.js and will help us to get it up to date. So this is the way to work in smart way with repositories. So next thing we need to do, we actually need to install Node.js, and we will start with a repository with official location of Node.js repository, and the command will be curl -sl and then the location, and in our case it's something like deb node source and then setup. Then we also will do the sudo bash minus. So this will actually update all our repositories together with grabbing and adding to our PPA the latest Node.js repository. And basically after this command, after it will complete this update, we will be able to install the Node.js with sudo apt-get install Node.js, and let's do it with -y. So basically, of course, you can try to do it directly, like without any curl and without any repositories. But the trick is that in this Ubuntu version, I mean Ubuntu with Ubuntu repositories underneath, the Node.js version that is coming doesn't include npm, and it's not really easy to install it separately also. So it's easier to get the latest one from official repositories for Node.js. So basically it's installed, so we can check it with npm. This command now should work. Yeah, as you see, it's working. And next thing, actually with npm we can specify npm install -g to make it global and install three things. So we will install Cordova. This will help us with some third-party development tools that we will actually use, and one of them will be Ionic. And we will also install this thing called Boyer to be able to easier install updates and plugins and everything. So this is like package manager. So yeah, of course you need to run it with the permissions under sudo. So let's repeat it with sudo. So as you can see, everything is installed, you don't see any errors, so this is great. And one more thing that we will need to do, actually we will need to install some additional libraries regarding the 32-bit architecture. So the initial package called 32libs, but this package doesn't exist for this version of Ubuntu, so we will install the following packages with the required permissions, so with sudo, and those will be lib32 Z1, it will be also lib32 curses 5, and it will be lib32 bz210. So those three things, of course you will need to provide the password and agree for the installation. Basically those things will help us to do the build with Android command line interface, because those are required, especially lib32z1, for Android command line tools to work. So basically this is one more step that we need to do. And last one but not least is actually adding the Java home to our environment variables, because by default, if you remember, we're adding the path, and we actually also need the variable to be set up like Java home, and this should point to the existing location, and it can be set up by the following command: export Java home, and you need to specify the location. So in most cases it's user lib, then GVM, and then it depends. In our case it's Java 7 Oracle without the last slash. And basically by setting this export, it will actually set the Java home for this terminal session. But to make it global, we will need to modify just the same way some kind of profile file, and in our case it will be easier to just copy this line and then open just the same way, open bash rc file with leaf-pad, and add this line at the bottom right after our path. So you can ignore this step, but then you will need to do it further in labs in order to use again the build tools. Okay, so basically this is one more step that we've done, and on this moment that's all. So thank you for doing this lab. This lab is finished. Thank you.